Welcome to our deep dive today. It's all about this single report that I've been looking at, and it's really been grabbing my attention,
Oh, yeah.
navigating the AGI revolution towards a balanced, sustainable, and utopian post-work future. It's,
Quite a title.
yeah, it's a mouthful, I know.
Huh.
But the ideas inside are even more kind of mind-blowing. It was put together by Robert Hastrup-Timmy, also known as Morpheus Thinks, with the help of Google's Gemini AI. Let me tell you, it paints quite a picture of what might be coming at us.
It does.
To help us kind of break this all down, we have an expert who is amazing at making sense of really complex topics.
Well, I try my best.
This report really doesn't shy away from the big questions, does it?
Not at all. Right away, from the start, it makes it clear that AGI, or artificial general intelligence, is completely different from just your run-of-the-mill AI. We're talking about a potential intelligence explosion where AI reaches human-level cognition and maybe even goes beyond us.
Yeah, that's what I found really interesting, that the idea that AGI could actually design even smarter versions of itself. This recursive self-improvement, as the report calls it, is almost like something out of science fiction, you know?
It is. It definitely pushes the boundaries of what we think is even possible. And the report suggests that this kind of AGI could be just 2 or 3 years away from becoming a reality.
Really? Okay, wow. That's a lot sooner than I think most people realize. So, if AGI is on the horizon like that, what does that mean for us?
Yeah.
For humans, you know? The report seems pretty concerned about the impact on jobs, right?
Yeah, definitely. The report argues that no job is truly safe in the long run. It suggests that AGI could lead to universal automation, which would completely reshape the way we think about work.
That's a pretty sobering thought.
Mhm.
Are you telling me that someday an AGI could do my job better than I can?
That's what the report is suggesting, yeah.
Yeah.
And it outlines some pretty serious consequences, things like wage stagnation, growing inequality, even a sense of meaninglessness if humans are left with only mundane tasks that AGI hasn't mastered yet.
So it's not all sunshine and roses with AGI then?
Well, the report does highlight some potential benefits, too. Think about freedom from dangerous or repetitive jobs. Think about the massive increase in productivity and wealth that AGI could bring. There's even the possibility of entirely new industries emerging that we can't even conceive of yet.
Okay, so it's a bit of a double-edged sword. It sounds like we need to be prepared for both the challenges and the opportunities that AGI will bring. What I'm really curious about is, what can we do to steer things in the right direction? Does the report offer any solutions?
It does, and it emphasizes that these solutions need to be proactive. We can't wait for AGI to disrupt everything and then just react. We need to start building the foundations of a post-AGI society now.
That makes sense. But what kind of foundations are we talking about? What needs to change?
The report suggests some pretty radical shifts, starting with how we think about work itself. It questions whether income should be tied to traditional jobs in a world where AGI can do so much. It even proposes valuing things like caregiving, community service, and creative pursuits as forms of work.
So it's not just about finding new jobs for people to do. It's about redefining the whole concept of work.
Exactly. It's about moving away from a purely material economy to what the report calls a meaning economy, a system where purpose and contribution to society are valued, even if they don't fit into our traditional definitions of work.
That's a pretty big shift in thinking. But how do we actually make that happen? Where does the income come from if people aren't working in the traditional sense?
That's where Universal Basic Income, or UBI, comes into play. The report suggests that UBI will be a crucial part of this transition to a post-work society.
Okay, UBI, I feel like we hear a lot about that these days. But the report has a unique take on it, right?
Yeah, it does. It proposes a two-tiered UBI system. It recognizes that the impact of AGI won't be the same for everyone.
2 tiers.
Uh-huh.
That's interesting. I'm used to hearing about UBI as a one-size-fits-all solution. So
Yeah.
how would this two-tiered system work?
Well, one tier is aimed at those who are displaced from skilled jobs by AGI. The report argues that these individuals should receive at least 50% of their former income as compensation, acknowledging the value they still possess.
50%. That seems like a lot. Wouldn't that be incredibly expensive?
It would certainly require significant restructuring of our current economic models. But the report suggests that the wealth generated by AGI could be used to fund the system. It's about ensuring a smooth transition for those who are most impacted by automation.
And what about the other tier? Who is that for?
The other tier is for those who weren't earning high incomes before AGI. This tier would be more focused on ensuring a basic standard of living and providing a foundation for people to participate in this new economy.
So it's not just about handing out money to everyone. It's about creating a system that's fair and addresses the specific needs of different groups.
Exactly. It's about creating a society where everyone has the opportunity to thrive, even in a world where traditional jobs are scarce. And it's not just about income either. The report emphasizes the need for education and retraining to prepare people for this new reality.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But what kind of skills are we talking about? What will be valuable in a world where AGI can do almost anything?
The report highlights the importance of what it calls human-centric skills. Things like creativity, critical thinking, emotional intelligence, and the ability to adapt to constantly changing circumstances. These are the skills that will set us apart from AGI and allow us to thrive in a world where machines are doing more of the heavy lifting.
So it's not about competing with AI, it's about complementing it, finding those areas where our human strengths shine.
Precisely. And this report suggests that platforms like 4iGPT could be key to enabling this new way of working and learning.
4IRTPT, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's part of blockchain company's 4IR ecosystem, and it's designed to be a YouTube for knowledge. Think of it as a platform where anyone can share their expertise, answer questions, even create specialized instructions for AI systems.
And people can earn income by doing this. It's like a new way to monetize your knowledge and skills, even if your traditional job is automated.
Exactly. The report sees platforms like 4IRGPT as a crucial part of this post-AGI world, providing opportunities for income generation, continuous learning, and knowledge exchange. And it's all powered by blockchain technology, which ensures transparency and fair compensation for everyone involved.
This is all starting to paint a picture of a very different kind of future. But it sounds incredibly complex. How do we even begin to implement these ideas? Are there any real-world examples of these concepts in action?
Well, blockchain company's 4IR ecosystem is one example of how these ideas are already starting to take shape. And the report dives into some fascinating proposals for how we can restructure existing systems, like tokenizing Silicon Valley.
Tokenizing Silicon Valley. Now that sounds intriguing.
It's a bold idea, but it gets to the heart of how we can create a more equitable distribution of power and wealth in this new era.
Okay, you've definitely piqued my curiosity. I'm ready to dive deeper into this. Tell me more about this tokenization idea and what it would mean for the future of work.
Let's explore that in part 2 of our deep dive.
Sounds good. I can't wait.
So, this idea of tokenizing Silicon Valley, it really gets to the heart of how we can distribute power and wealth more equitably in a post-AGI world. The report argues that the current concentration of power in the hands of just a few tech giants is unsustainable. It proposes using blockchain technology to create a more decentralized and democratic system.
Okay, I'm following so far. But how does tokenization actually work in practice? What does it mean to tokenize a company like Google or Amazon?
Imagine if these companies issued digital tokens to their users. These tokens would represent ownership in the company, similar to how stocks work.
So instead of just being a customer of Amazon, I could actually own a piece of it.
Yeah, exactly. And with ownership comes influence. Token holders could gain voting rights on company decisions, receive a share of the profits, even have access to exclusive platform features.
Wow, that would be a huge shift in power. It almost sounds like democratizing the tech industry, giving users a real seat at the table.
That's precisely the point. The report argues that tokenization could help prevent a scenario where AGI just makes existing inequalities worse, with a small elite controlling the technology and reaping most of the benefits.
It's a fascinating idea. But is it really realistic? Would companies like Google and Amazon ever agree to something like this? They seem pretty attached to their power.
It would definitely be a major challenge, and the report acknowledges that. It suggests that government regulation might be necessary to incentivize or even mandate this kind of tokenization.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's a pretty radical change, and it probably wouldn't happen without some kind of push. But let's say, hypothetically, that we could pull this off. What would a tokenized Silicon Valley look like?
Well, imagine a world where the users of platforms like Facebook or YouTube had a direct say in how those platforms are run. They could vote on content moderation policies, data privacy practices, even the development of new features.
So it would be a very different kind of internet, for sure.
Yeah.
More democratic, more transparent, and potentially more aligned with the interests of the users.
Exactly. And it wouldn't just be limited to social media. Imagine if the workers at Amazon had ownership in the company and a voice in how it operates. It could lead to better working conditions, fairer wages, and a more sustainable business model overall.
It's a compelling vision, but it all hinges on this idea of blockchain technology being the foundation for this new system. To be honest, I'm still a bit fuzzy on how blockchain actually makes all of this possible.
Yeah, that's understandable. Blockchain can be a complex topic, but at its core, it's a decentralized and transparent ledger that allows for secure and trustless transactions.
Okay, so in simple terms, it's like a digital record-keeping system that everyone can see and trust.
Essentially, yes. And that has some important implications for tokenization. Because blockchain is decentralized, there's no single point of control. This means that no one entity, whether it's a government or a corporation, can manipulate the system or censor transactions.
So in a tokenized Silicon Valley built on blockchain, the power would be distributed among the token holders, not concentrated in the hands of a few executives.
Precisely. And because blockchain is transparent, everyone can see how the system is working, which promotes accountability and trust. This could help prevent corruption and ensure that the benefits of AGI are shared more fairly.
It all sounds very promising, but there's still this question in my mind. What about the people who aren't tech-savvy? The ones who don't understand blockchain or how to use these new digital platforms? Will they be left behind in this new world?
That's a really important point, and the report addresses it directly. It emphasizes that education and accessibility are crucial to ensuring that everyone can participate in this post-AGI society.
So it's not enough to just create these new systems and platforms. We need to make sure that everyone has the tools and knowledge to use them.
Absolutely. The report talks about the need for widespread digital literacy programs, as well as user-friendly interfaces that make these platforms accessible to everyone, regardless of their technical expertise.
It sounds like a massive undertaking. But if we can pull it off, it could lead to a much more inclusive and equitable society, even in a world where AGI is changing everything.
That's the hope, and that's the challenge. This report isn't just about predicting the future, it's about offering a roadmap for how we can shape that future in a way that benefits all of humanity. And it all starts with understanding the potential of these emerging technologies and having the courage to imagine a different way of doing things.
Speaking of doing things differently, the report also touches on this concept of a post-work utility environment. What exactly does that mean?
It's a fascinating idea, and it ties in directly with the concepts of UBI and tokenized platforms. Essentially, it envisions a world where traditional work is no longer the primary source of income or purpose.
Okay, so if we're not working in the traditional sense, what are we doing all day? What does a typical day even look like in this post-work utility environment?
Well, imagine a world where your basic needs are met through a UBI system. You have the freedom to pursue your passions, whether it's art, music, writing, volunteering, or even just spending time with loved ones.
That sounds pretty idyllic. But how do we contribute to society in this kind of world? How do we create value if we're not working in the traditional sense?
That's where those tokenized platforms come in. Imagine a world where you can earn income by sharing your knowledge and skills on platforms like 4IRGPT. Maybe you're an expert gardener who can create tutorials for others. Or perhaps you have a passion for history and can lead virtual tours of ancient ruins. The possibilities are endless.
So in this post-work utility environment, we're all essentially entrepreneurs, using our unique talents and passions to create value and earn income.
In a way, yes. It's a world where work is no longer about punching a clock or following orders from a boss. It's about pursuing your passions, contributing to society, and being rewarded for your unique contributions.
That sounds incredibly empowering. But how do we ensure that everyone has access to these opportunities? What about the people who don't have the skills or resources to thrive in this new economy?
That's where education and support systems become crucial. The report emphasizes the need for lifelong learning opportunities as well as social safety nets to ensure that everyone has a basic standard of living, regardless of their ability to earn income in this new economy.
It sounds like a very different kind of society than the one we live in today, one that's more focused on human well-being and fulfillment, rather than just economic productivity.
Exactly. And the report argues that this kind of shift is not only possible, but it's essential if we want to create a truly sustainable and equitable future in the age of AGI.
This has been a really mind-expanding conversation. You've given me a lot to think about.
It's been my pleasure, and I encourage everyone listening to explore the report themselves and delve even deeper into these fascinating ideas.
Before we wrap up this part, is there one key takeaway, one thought you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Yes. I think the most important message is this. The future of AGI is not something that's just going to happen to us. It's something we're going to create together. The choices we make today, the conversations we have, the actions we take these will determine what our world looks like in the age of AGI.
So let's choose wisely and start building that future now. This report has given us a glimpse of what's possible. Now it's up to us to make it a reality. We've talked about this huge shift in how work and value might function in an AGI world. But the report gets even more specific about how to support people during this transition, right? It's not just vague ideas about UBI.
Yeah, it goes way deeper than that. This is where that two-tiered UBI concept comes into sharper focus. The report actually breaks down how these tiers would work in practice, and it's quite nuanced.
So let's start with the tier for skilled workers, the people who might be directly replaced by AGI. What does the report propose for them?
It's called the 50% compensation benchmark. Basically, if your job is automated by AGI, you would receive at least half of your previous income as UBI.
50%. That seems really generous. Why such a high number?
The reasoning is really interesting. They're saying that your skills and experience don't just disappear because a machine can do your job. You still have value even if there's no market for that specific job anymore.
It's like saying the value you built up is still there, it's just been transferred onto the AGI.
Exactly. And this compensation-based UBI helps with that transition. It recognizes that people have built their lives around a certain income, and suddenly dropping that would be disruptive. Financially, sure, but also emotionally.
That makes sense. But can we really afford this? Paying half the previous salary to everyone who loses a job to AGI seems like a huge burden.
The report acknowledges that it would require some big changes to our current economic models. It explores options like taxing AGI profits directly, a wealth tax, or even a land value tax.
So the idea is that the technology causing the disruption should help pay for the solution.
Exactly. It's about making sure that the benefits of AGI are shared more widely.
Okay, that's the skilled worker tier.
Yeah.
What about people who weren't earning a lot before AGI? How does that second tier work?
For that group, it's a more standardized UBI, focused on a basic standard of living and enabling them to participate in this new AGI economy.
So it's not just everyone getting the same amount. It's tailored to different situations.
Right. It's about providing a foundation, whether that means education, training, starting a business, or just having stability to explore your interests.
So it's not just survival. It's about being able to thrive, even if your old job doesn't exist anymore.
That's the key. It's about creating a system where people can thrive. And the report emphasizes that UBI, in both forms, shouldn't be seen as the only source of income. It's about providing a safety net while also encouraging people to engage with these new platforms and economies we talked about.
Right, like 4i GPT and becoming knowledge entrepreneurs.
Exactly. Those platforms become even more important. UBI is the foundation, and then people can use their skills and passions to earn additional income by sharing their knowledge or creating content on these decentralized platforms.
It's a whole new way of thinking about income and purpose.
It is. And the report really stresses that it's not about humans versus AI. It's about finding ways for them to work together for a better future for everyone.
What's interesting to me is that this report isn't just about tech or economics. It's about what it means to be human in a world where AI plays such a big role.
You got it. That's exactly what it is. The report makes us rethink our ideas about work, value, even happiness. It suggests that AGI could be a force for good, allowing us to focus on things like creativity, community, and personal growth.
It's a hopeful vision, but it also feels like a lot. There's so much that needs to change.
It's a huge task, no doubt. But the report argues that this transformation is possible and essential if we want a future that's both technologically advanced and socially just.
This has been a really eye-opening deep dive.
Great.
I feel like I understand the challenges and opportunities of AGI so much better, and these potential paths to a more equitable and fulfilling future.
It's been great exploring these ideas with you. I hope our listeners are finding it as thought-provoking as we have.
Before we wrap up completely, is there one final thought you want to leave our listeners with?
The most important thing to remember is the future isn't set in stone. We have the power to shape the age of AGI, to create a world that reflects our values. It takes bold action, creative thinking, and a willingness to embrace change. But this report shows us a way forward, and the time to start building that future is now.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the AGI revolution. We hope it's left you with a sense of wonder and possibility.